This episode is brought to you by Paramount Plus. If you don't already subscribe to Paramount Plus, please use our affiliate link by going to talkthroughmedia.com/Paramount Plus. Using our affiliate link gives us a little credit, which helps us to keep bringing you great content. U.S. residents only.
Hello, and welcome to episode 21 of the Star Trek Picard cast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
And before we get started, we want to remind you that we now provide early access to virtually uncensored versions of the podcast that go out roughly 24 hours. Actually, since we came back, it's been a little bit longer. Now we've got a backlog, but they come out earlier for Patreon subscribers. And they get to hear them with all the great raw ingredients of the sausage. So if you want to hear those episodes and get them sooner, go to patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie to sign up. As low as $1 a month gets you access. You can help out the podcast as well. That helps to cover our monthly fees and all of that. So your help is appreciated. Tonight, we'll be covering Season 2, Episode 3 of Star Trek Picard, titled Assimilation. We don't really have any feedback on the last episode, Season 2, Episode 2, Penance, because we haven't released that episode yet to either Patreon or the regular listeners, although we have released Episode 1, so we finally got rid of our drought. So at least there's that. But we haven't gotten any feedback on that either, other than to say, glad you guys are back kind of thing. So for episode 3 of season 2, titled Assimilation, it was written by Kiley Rossetter and Christopher Monfette, who was also one of the writers of the previous episode. Directed by none other than Back to the Future's Lea Thompson. The description from ParamountPlus.com is as follows. Picard and crew travel back to 2024 Los Angeles in search of the Watcher, who can help them identify the point at which time diverged. Seven, Raffi, and Rios venture out into an unfamiliar world 400 years in their past, while Picard and Jurati attempt to gather information from an unlikely and dangerous ally. Of course, we have to say dangerous ally. Anyway. Star date. We don't know the star date. Of course, they were in the alternate timeline, so do they even have star dates there? We don't know. The air date was March 17th, 2022, St. Patrick's Day. And the runtime was 47 minutes. Ha ha ha, we have a 47 and 19 seconds. All right, Ruthie, what did you think of Assimilation?
I liked it okay, but there were some things I didn't like about it. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10.
Okay. I'm kind of right there with you. The first 2 episodes I really enjoyed a lot. This one, not as much. It was still pretty good, but I can't put it in the same like high 9 kind of stratosphere as those 2 were. This is more an 8.5, and I gave it an 8.5 creepy crawly Borg queens.
Yeah, that was definitely creepy.
Yeah. All right. We have listener ratings. Why don't you take the first one?
All right. First, we have Wes from Minnesota who says, excellent episode. I give this episode 10 Borg Queen greetings of Hello Locutus out of 10.
I'm still trying to figure out your rating system, Wes. Brian from Colorado says, I really enjoyed this episode and rate it 9.7 legless Borg Queens. I like that one. That's good. Legless Borg Queens.
Legless Borg Queens. That's hilarious. James the Augmented Sailor says, I give Assimilation 9.1 shit I stole from the Borg Queen. Yeah. That's a good title.
Yes, it was. It was. Andy in the Midwest says, I rate this a 9.5 out of 10. Last week was fun, but I've been waiting for them to get to 2024, and I'm glad to get that story going. All right, so let's move on to our yeses.
Yes!
Wes from Minnesota, he says, Rick and Morty is now canon.
That's funny.
Humor definitely played a part again with Rios, Seven, and Rafi making their way through 2024 Los Angeles.
Brian from Colorado says, yes, the fact that they jumped to 2024 and implied conditions similar to what Cisco, Bashir, Dax experienced during their time travel episode to that same year when the Bell riots happened was a nice tie-in. I enjoyed seeing 7 of 9 seem more easygoing and human in this episode. Perhaps not having her Borg implants makes her personality different. I also liked how Agnes impressed the Borg Queen. I'm sure that's not easy to do. I think with 7 and her implants, I think what you're picking up on there is not that it makes her personality different, but that she doesn't look different on the outside. And so she can relax a little bit.
She's not singled out. And it's kind of, I think I brought up in a previous episode about this, the whole thing about being seen. And in this case, it's how not to be seen. And it kind of like, because she was being seen in a very negative way, and now she's not being seen in that same negative way. So it's much more freeing of her. I think that's kind of what's going on. She can kind of be herself without all that Borg baggage. That's my take. Agnes. I'm sorry, James. I don't know how I can only partially see my monitor from. I'm still trying to get my desk set up properly. I'm having some kind of small issues with it, and one of it is that I can only partially see the monitor that I'm reading the stuff from. So I saw the beginning of the last line, and then the rest of the first. So I took Andy in the Midwest and James, and I combined them somehow, and I said Agnes. Anyway, so James, the Augmented Sailor. Sorry, James. Yes, Girardi's line that led to my rating. Yes, and a very good line that was. The feel given off when the Queen had broken out of her containment and rose up, it reminded me of something out of Hellraiser. I really dug it. It was scary. It's like I said, when I said creepy crawly, it was a scary moment. It's like, oh my God, what's she going to do?
Yeah. Watching her crawl towards Agnes, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was pretty yikes. Okay. Next, we have Andy in the Midwest who says, yes, I like how they updated the time travel effect from Star Trek 4, but still made it feel like the same method. I can certainly do without the weird floating statue heads in Mist Effect, but the shots of our crew members' actual heads gave a similar feeling. Also, the low-key emergence from the slingshot where they all appeared to be waking up from a sleep was good. I like when Star Trek acknowledges and builds off of what we've already seen. It makes things feel real. I agree with that. I like it when they stick to the Bible.
I agree.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Gives continuity.
It was fitting, like it. I agree with you, Andy. It was compatible. It wasn't the same, but it was compatible. So I think that's the main thing.
Simpatico.
Yeah.
All right. Next, he says, I also like the transporter effect of Rios dropping in midair. I like Rios, so I wasn't enjoying his injuries, but the transporter always seems to work too perfectly, and I like the acknowledgement that sometimes it doesn't, and there can be risks. I'm not sure I understand why they didn't all transport to the same place. I'll have to rewatch in case I missed something. Well, I will tell you, Andy, it's because they said that the rotational compensation is off, so they should land near each other. That's why.
Yeah. And why was the rotational compensation not working? Is that just because of the crash?
They didn't say that.
Oh.
I assume. They just said when they were fiddling with the transporter, they said, or I should say Rios said, the rotational compensation is off, so we should land near each other.
All right, Ruthie, what do you have for yeses?
Even though it was creepy, I also enjoyed the Borg Queen using her hands and arms to move towards Agnes in what appeared to be a menacing way. But there was another side to that I didn't like, but I liked pretty much Agnes. She was my superstar this episode. I love Alison Pill. I think she's great. She does so much with what she's given. And not that the others are not also doing the most, but it's probably a combination of the way she's written and the way that she portrays the character. But yeah, I liked it. Like her scenes.
100% agree with you on Agnes. I thought that she made the episode for sure. Like James was saying, the shit I stole from Poor Queen. That was.
Mm-hmm. Play that file. Shit I stole from the Borg Queen. That was funny.
Yeah. What else you got?
That's about it.
I just wrote a few quick things, because I didn't have any yeses written down, but just thinking about it really quick here. I liked the fact that, they all didn't transport to the same spot, and particularly I got a kick out of Rios, because I've always thought to myself, why doesn't that happen more often? But Rios, like, just kind of beaming into thin air and falling. I thought, yeah, it's about time something like that would happen. So I got a kick out of that.
I guess I would say it normally doesn't happen because the rotational compensation isn't off.
Right. Yeah. But I thought it was a good effect.
I liked it, but I wish that he hadn't have gotten so hurt and needed to go to the hospital. That wasn't really a hospital, and for various other reasons I will go into.
Okay.
When we get there.
Well, I did like the time at the clinic. I don't know. I like the doctor. I like the kid. I don't like the social commentary part. Not because I wish that it wasn't true, is what I'm saying. I wish that they didn't need to have that, is what I'm trying to say. Not that I had any problems with I guess what I'm trying to say is it's too realistic in a way. Wish that wasn't true. But I did like those whole scenes except for when he got taken away. I liked Rafi just like kicking the ass of that guy who tried to mug her. That was great.
Yeah,
I liked
was fun.
I liked the young girl who thought that Seven was a superhero because she is a superhero. And I thought that was really good. I agreed with what some other people said about the effect with the time travel. The Borg Queen, like, basically taking out. Did you notice how the color of the like torpedoes or whatever changed to green?
I did see that.
Yep. So I thought that was cool and creepy at the same time. If that's creepy cool. So yeah, there were I guess like you, there were some things that I really liked about the episode and a few things that I didn't like, or some things that I found annoying that kind of bothered me a little bit. So let's kind of move on to that and go into our nose.
No!
Last from Minnesota, he says, Elnor dying. That murdering Confederate magistrate bastard. Thank you, Rafi, for vaporizing him.
I agree. I was really upset that Elnor died. I didn't like it at all. I think there's a theme in our nose, too.
Yeah.
James, the augmented sailor, also said that. And Andy in the Midwest also said that. But we'll read their nose in a second. It was terrible. I didn't like it. I felt it was unnecessary. Me no likey.
It was almost like they did it because it would have been too hard to explain a Romulan. But I don't know.
He could have stayed on the ship. Whatever. All right. Brian from Colorado says, where did they crash exactly? Picard said something about going home, so maybe it was his vineyard. There was no confirmation of this. If they did go to France, that seems pretty far compared to their crash trajectory headed to LA. The offhand comment Agnes made to Rios about vaccination chip was really odd and seemed out of place. I think that was put in there based on 2020 to 2022 conspiracy theories about COVID vaccination, and it really took me out of the scene. It just seemed poor taste to say it at all. I don't know what to say to that because I thought it seemed perfectly fine that they would have something to automatically vaccinate them against stuff in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they also have ID chips implanted in their bodies. So, I mean, was there no issue with that? Was it just the vaccination part of it that you didn't like? I don't know.
I'm right there with you. I did not have a problem with this at all. In fact, I kind of liked it was there. So,
I did too, because it's kind of like evidence of why they should not go to the hospitals or whatever. So,
I don't know. My take on this is that this is kind of a political thing these days, and it shouldn't be, but I just think that COVID would be gone if everyone just did what they were supposed to do. So that's my take. But then again, my wife, who's still my wife, but we're no longer living together, she has not vaccinated. So, what can you say? Maybe that's part of the reason why we're not together anymore. Probably not, but just one of a million reasons. All right, shut up, Brian. Shut up.
No, keep talking. It's good. It's good stuff.
My point being that It's the people that haven't been vaccinated, I think, that are still, the problem these days. But anyway, I'm sure someone will object to us talking about this. So, well, anyway, it was the vineyard. He does say that. So,
Well, he doesn't say he doesn't really say that. He
no?
says no.
Okay.
He doesn't.
All right. I'll take your word for it. I did not do a full rewatch. I have seen this episode, I think, 3 times, but I didn't finish my rewatch today. So,
yeah, Brian is right. Brian from Colorado is right. He said something about going home, and then they crashed in what looked like a countryside type area, but all he said was home. So in this particular episode, all we know is they're somewhere in a not populated area. We don't exactly know where it is. It's a nice conclusion to draw that they went to his vineyard because he said home. So I'm just saying, if people ever listen along and watch in the future, we don't want to spoil them for future episodes.
Yeah, I know. Yes, we've already had a bad experience with that. All right. James, the Augmented Sailor, is next. He says, no, Elnor dying. I don't understand this. I feel like we were going to see main characters of the show not appear very much this season between him and Soji. It seems that way.
Yeah.
Especially with him.
Yeah, I was sad for this reason as well about Elnor, because I'm like, it's only the 3rd episode. He can't die, and at the beginning of the episode to boot. So yeah, I was also not best pleased about this. Didn't like it. All right. Next we have Andy in the Midwest, who also says, no, Elnor's death. I was pretty neutral about his character in season 1, but I've enjoyed him in season 2, and my daughter loves him. I hope she keeps watching with me after this. I think he will be back once they restore the timeline, though. To me, 7 is evidence of this. In this reality, she was never assimilated. So if they restore the timeline, I think we will go back to a reality where Elnor never died, even if they all retain memories of his death. I think so too. At least I should say I really hope so. Or maybe I should rephrase that to say they better.
Yeah. I think that is probably true.
I didn't like it. I was like, no, he can't be dead. I love Elnor. He's so cute.
That's it for our listener knows. What do you have for knows?
I liked that Rios didn't land on solid ground. As everyone else is saying, it was nice to see a little bit of, whatever mishap, I guess, with the transporter, because it does seem like they always just land perfectly. But now we know there's a reason why they always land perfectly. But I have to say, I did not like the fact that he got knocked out and met the cute current local doctor storyline. I would have preferred it if he had caught himself or something, or was only mildly injured. I really can't stand anything about this whole storyline. I didn't like his scenes with the clinic doctor. I didn't like any of that storyline. I wish I could just lift it right out of the episode, because it was a huge, gigantic no for me. And one of the reasons is because she made up frankly, I didn't understand her reason for having this clinic, because unless things really, really, really change in the next 2 years, California has passed laws to make themselves a sanctuary state. So people can get healthcare at a regular hospital and not have to worry about being reported to ICE in California. And especially LA. Before California passed the laws, LA was a sanctuary city. So basically what they're saying is that in 2 years, California is going to do an about face and not have these attitudes anymore. So this entire thing rings just 100% false to me. The entire reason why she would have this clinic for these illegal aliens just didn't really make any sense to me, because they would have gone to the regular hospital anyway. They would have known that, because I mean, it's I don't know. I knew that, and I don't live there, and I don't have to worry about something like that. And so I feel like it's pretty common knowledge there. Maybe it's not, but it's, they're pretty proud of the fact that they are a sanctuary city or a sanctuary state or whatever. And I mean, because honestly, and you know what? Kudos to them if that's what they want to do. Because those immigration laws are federal laws, but states can dictate how they want to handle their affairs. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way that our government was set up. The powers that are not specifically given to the federal government are left to the states. And states and the federal government clash a lot of times about that, because states feel like the federal government is taking too many powers. And so states fight back sometimes by doing stuff like that. And that's great. If that's how they, the people who live in that state want to run that state, then they should do that. But and I feel like I know the direction this storyline is going to go just by watching this episode, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Okay. I don't have much of a stronger reaction to it because I didn't know that. So,
well, maybe it's not common knowledge, but I don't know how I knew it. But
well, I guess it makes sense.
I probably watched it on some TV show or something.
Sure.
And I mean, not that you can believe everything that's in a TV show, but a lot of times they stick decently close to reality. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I don't know. I didn't really like them portraying ICE agents as jackbooted thugs either. Coming into, I don't really think that's how they can operate for a business that's owned by a citizen. It's really easy to find out if a business is owned by a citizen, because she would be, have business licenses and all that kind of stuff. And they can't just come and like bust in the door like that. I don't care if they're doing it for dramatic effect. That's not really how it goes down. If they have a no-knock warrant, then yeah, but they didn't say anything about having anything like that. They just broke down the door and showed up because they're trying. I just can't even with this. They're trying to portray a situation in a certain way, and I don't know if it's for shock value or if it's because the people who write the show think that that's really how things happen. But I didn't like it.
I tend to think that was probably for shock value and kind of short formed, was like the short form version of what would happen versus the long form. That's my take.
I didn't like it. I'm sure that there are people who misuse the authority or power that they've been given by the positions that they hold, but I don't really think that is I don't know. I don't think that's like as widespread as, I mean, again, there were only 6 Homeland Security agents or something like that. I mean, and again, Homeland Security isn't going to go busting in the door anyway. These should have been ICE agents that came knocking if they were looking for people who were violating immigration policies.
Mm-hmm.
But on their vests, it said Department of Homeland Security.
Mm.
So what the hell is Homeland Security doing breaking down the door of a citizen's medical clinic? Really? Really, Star Trek? Really?
Is that it?
That's my no. That's the reason why I went from a 9.5 to in the previous episode to an 8.
I just had two I mentioned yesterday in the episode for episode 2 about I thought it was odd how the magistrate, beamed in first. And it ties into that. I certainly noticed that when they, got into the fight, they stood awfully close to Rafi and Seven and, all of them, to like basically get their weapons taken away. Like literally they were able to reach out and grab their weapons. And I'm thinking to myself, that's a load of crap. You would not stand that close to allow something like that happen. It didn't make any sense to me that they'd be that close from them. They'd at least be another pace away so that, they have to take at least one step to be able to do something like that. And the step that they would take, they could be shot. So that was a big no for me. The other big no was, I think, done for dramatic effect, both on the positive and the negative. When the magistrate shot Elnor, the magistrate did not vaporize Elnor. Okay.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah. But all the other shots vaporized, they vaporized the magistrate and they vaporized the magistrate's minions, the two security people or whatever. So why did Elnor not get vaporized?
I have a theory about this.
Okay.
Because I was noticing that too when I was watching the episode. I was like, hey, everybody else vaporized. I think perhaps because the magistrate was the one who shot Elnor.
Yeah.
And I think, but I didn't really go back and like rewatch meticulously, but I feel like everyone else who got shot with one of the other dude's guns or phasers or whatever.
Okay.
And the other guys had, because the first time someone got shot and they got vaporized, I was like, whoa, shit. Set to stun? No, thank you.
Yeah.
More like set to vaporize. But I was thinking maybe there must be a setting in between stun and vaporize.
Yeah.
And that's what the magistrate had his weapon set on or something. I don't know.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, it kind of does, but honestly, it really doesn't, because if you're going to show up and start shooting peeps and you don't care about, I would assume that in this reality, they don't really have a stun setting for their phasers. So maybe perhaps that was just the lowest setting. But if he's going to show up and instantly start shooting people whom he is really certain are traitors, why would he care to have his phaser on the lowest setting?
Yeah.
This was really not good enough for me because it didn't make sense. Because like we saw, everybody else got vaporized, which is a quick, easy way to get them all off the bridge so they don't have to deal with dead bodies.
Right.
But at the same time, it didn't really make much sense for Elnor to get shot but not vaporized, and then everybody else to get shot and vaporized.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say is because the magistrate's phaser was set differently. But then again, like I said, that doesn't make sense because why would his be set differently? Anyway, it's a big whole thing.
I think he might have something though. Yeah, because obviously, like, we know that Seven shot two of them, and I think Rafi shot the other, right? So,
Mhm.
so they would have had the two security people. So it makes sense to me. Yeah, but it's kind of like I was thinking about it in terms of if you remember, this is I forget the name of the episode, but it was like season 1, episode 5 of Discovery. This one where what's his name? Lorca is on the Klingon prison ship, and we see the several Klingons get vaporized with their disruptor, and L'Rell, when she gets shot, it's just her face gets like burnt to a crisp. And in that case, it was because it was a ricochet, right? She didn't get shot
Mhm.
it didn't hit her directly. It bounced off. But it wasn't that way in this case. It did hit him directly. I mean, I did see that again today. So yeah, what your theory makes a lot of sense to me. So anyway, unless you have anything else, I think we can move on to our not good enoughs.
Okay.
Not good enough, damn it! Not good enough!
All right. Wes from Minnesota says Girardi took a back seat. She apparently has daddy issues. Picard Picard not being sympathetic enough for Rafi when Elnor dies, but that is to be expected since he has lost many people under his command. Examples like Jack Crusher and Tasha Yar.
Hmm.
I don't know. Not being sympathetic enough. I think he's more about, us having a job to do. He's not focusing on the fact that he just lost Elnor. He's focusing on trying to survive and trying to make sure that they have a future. So I get that. I don't think really Girardi took a back seat, certainly not by the end of the episode.
Yeah.
Because she was very much, even though she was not was still on the ship, she played a very, very important part of this episode by the end. So don't know if I would agree with you there. Has daddy issues. I like that part though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, next.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I agree with you about I understand why Rafi is upset, but she's clearly not thinking with her head on straight, because if she were,
No.
she would understand how, I mean, she said what she's experienced is intense, sharp disappointment in leadership, which, you know, would sting if you're in the leadership position. But on the flip side of that coin, how quickly she forgot what it is to be in charge. I mean, she was the captain of her own ship when she showed up to the incident before all this mess started back in episode 2, you know? So it's not like she's never been in command. It's not like she doesn't understand. I just think she's not being logical or rational right now. She's feeling her feelings and she's lashing out because she's upset. And I don't think that anything Picard would have said to her would have been sympathetic enough, to be quite frank. So, I mean, unless he wants her or she wants him to like coddle her or something, which I don't really see her wanting to be coddled either.
I don't really know what she was expecting there. Like, was she expecting them to just stop the mission, or?
Yeah. I don't know what she was thinking. I mean, this is why I'm saying like she's not really thinking, because
Right.
she's in her head, she's in her feelings, and if she could think rationally or logically, she would understand that there wasn't really anything else they could have done. They did the best they could. Sometimes people die. Yeah, I'm mad about it too, but at the same time, I'm like, I get it.
Right. Yeah. All right. Next.
Okay, next we have Brian from Colorado. Not good enough. The episode just ended abruptly. No cliffhanger or setup for next time. It just stopped. I didn't like that. I think you are confusing. Well, I don't know exactly what. I mean, what do you think exactly a cliffhanger is? They just kind of end abruptly. That's like the definition of a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
And you can't really have a cliffhanger and a setup for next time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, those two are pretty much mutually exclusive. You either get a cliffhanger or a setup for next episode. I mean, if you think about it, I guess the cliffhanger is the setup for next episode.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought I would more describe my words in an animated GIF versus actually talking there. So, Ruthie, if you scroll down to the next page, you'll see how I described it. It's basically.
You'll have to post that GIF on the Facebook thread.
I will post it. I will post it on the I will post it on the episode thread. But basically, it's a guy looking at somebody talking, and he just smiles at the camera, and first he makes a face at the guy, and then he smiles at the camera, and the screen fills up with question marks. And is that Nick Cannon? It looks like Nick Cannon, but
I don't have any idea.
Yeah. I don't know if it is or not, but a younger Nick Cannon if it is. James, the augmented sailor, he says, why is it the phasers acted like a ballistic weapon with Elnor, but disintegrated the magistrate and his boarding party? Yes, exactly.
Exactly. We just talked about this. We agree with you, James. Yep. What the heck?
I highly doubt settings were changed during the struggle. Very inconsistent there. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Well, hopefully my lame explanation for that will help you out there. I don't know.
It's the only explanation I can think of that makes any sense to me. So maybe those phasers have two settings. It's kill you quickly and kill you slowly.
Yeah, exactly. Kill you quick as in vaporize and kill you slow as in bleed to death.
Yep. I know it was for the sake of building tension and drama, but Rios should have known better than to stick around the clinic and confront authorities. At least he was talked out of bringing the phaser, I guess. Yeah, you're right about that. He should have tucked tail and left. I don't have a disagreement with you there, and that probably is a source of why you don't like it, I imagine.
I mean, it didn't make it any better.
Yeah. Lastly, I didn't understand the interface between Girardi and the Queen. Did she have a USB installed in her neck? Or
That's hilarious. I was kind of thinking about this too, but I imagine it's like, you know, how they all have the little assimilation tool in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of like stick their hand out and these two little like tubules like jab you wherever in your neck or whatever vulnerable spot they can come up with.
Right.
I think that's kind of it. It's not really a USB.
It's kind of funny though. That USB-C really works wonders. Tell you.
Hey, it is a universal.
Yeah. And it can be Thunderbolt too.
Serial bus.
Yep. So that's funny.
All right. Next we have Andy in the Midwest who says, not good enough. I'm not sure about this one. I probably need insight from people who are more knowledgeable on this topic. But is it likely that La Sirena was able to enter Earth's atmosphere and crash land without detection? In previous time travel adventures, the crew was always concerned about the ship being detected, and sometimes/usually it was. Also, I would like some confirmation that they crashed in an area in which they are unlikely to be detected. This was not like a small plane going down. It was a pretty massive impact. Is there really no one around who would have seen that? Perhaps that is still coming, but I don't recall it being addressed during the episode. Yeah, they didn't really talk about it. And I don't really. I mean, someone would have seen it somewhere with
You would
the
think so.
amount of satellites that we've got in orbit. Someone would have noticed a legit flying spaceship crash landing on the Earth. But maybe that is still to come. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, one would, you would have to think that there would be some reason for it. You know, like, do these Confederation ships have cloaking technology? Which, you know, that's how the Klingon bird of prey was able to, you know, come back to, and for that matter, I guess the Defiant was able to do it.
Because they had cloaking technology, right?
Right. So if this ship does, then it could potentially not be detected. But at least at this stage, we don't know. But we're just speculating at this point. All right, Ruthie, what do you have for not good enough?
I think we've pretty much covered it. I had a few others, like I thought Seven's outburst at the very beginning in the cold open was a little bit late. I don't understand why she didn't muster up the gumption a little bit before and try and take back control, like right when he showed up. I don't know if that was an editing thing or something, but it kind of seemed like everybody was like reacting and doing stuff. And then she was like, oh, I'm the president. I mean, maybe she would. Maybe that's more realistic. But I was kind of like, man, why didn't she do that like right away?
Oh,
She kinda did it earlier in the episode. I mean, earlier in the previous episode, she did it. And so, yeah. Anyway. And like, I didn't understand why when the Borg Queen took control of La Serena, Rios's head disappeared. And then they jumped back in time and suddenly they popped back into the past and his head popped back up too. His HUD popped back up. So I was like, why did it just randomly show back up? It wasn't to give him any control over the ship because he still didn't have any control over the ship. So, yeah. And I also don't understand why they didn't see that coming. I mean, they're speeding towards a planet and they're more concerned about what time they're in, not the fact that, hey, we might crash into this planet. I mean, if it were me, I would be a little bit more concerned about my immediate situation versus something we can figure out later. I mean, I would think that that would be the first thing on their mind, especially if crashing is on the table. So I don't know. Mm-hmm. Like my first question would not, I mean, I understand that their first question would have been, did we make it? But the very next thing, not let's try and figure out what time we're in. The very next thing should have been, oh my gosh, we're about to crash into that planet. I mean, because they slingshot around the sun and they're speeding towards Earth. And they might not necessarily know that they don't have control of the ship yet, but when you're speeding towards a solid object, I mean, physics tells you that you should do something about that. So that was kind of, I was like, oh, come on, guys. Have a little bit more situational awareness, I guess. Yeah, I think that's probably about it.
All right.
Oh, there was a bad editing bit in one of the scenes with the doctor. She goes from having her hands in her pockets when Rio started talking, and the next cut, without her moving at all, she was holding Rios's hand, his dislocated hand or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It was disconcerting. I didn't like it. I was like, man, that's some terrible acting. They need to pay attention closer. I'm like, you're looking at her back and her shoulders are steady. She's got her hands in her pockets. And the next scene, she's holding his hand. I'm like, did she move while we were changing scenes or something? Is that what we're supposed to expect or suspect? I don't know. Just blah.
Bad acting or bad editing?
Bad editing.
Yes.
Bad direction.
Yeah.
Or someone's not paying attention to the continuity. because they could have filmed those two scenes completely apart. Like someone should have said, once he starts talking, take his hand, because in the next scene, you're holding his hand. So, I don't know. It just kind of, it put me off. I didn't like it, but that was just another in a long line of things I didn't like about those scenes. So
how'd you really feel?
I didn't like it. Oh, I forgot this. I loved the improv. Sorry, this is not a not good enough. This is a yes. I love the improv between Raffi and Seven, when Seven kept calling it other things, like I can't remember what she called it first, but she called it like a celluloid something or other.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Raffi goes, just called a picture.
Yeah.
That was hilarious. I love their little improv banter there. And you're not gonna let Kevin be funner than you.
Oh, yeah.
It was so cute. I am funner than Kevin. It was funny. It was good. I liked it. I like that bit.
Yeah.
Oh, also, what's up with peanut butter? Is there no peanut butter in the future? I mean, like, he's like, man, this is really good. It's like,
Well,
do
he's
they
just not used to real, everything's like, if you remember from Discovery, everything's made of shit.
Well, I would have a serious problem with that if they can't make something real. I mean, what defines real?
Well, it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't make it, but it's probably rare to have the things that are, real peanuts versus replicated peanuts.
Yeah. I just think it should be the same. If it's the same, it's the same. A peanut is a peanut. I don't know. I was like, man, what, do they not have peanuts in the future? I mean, like, I get it. I like my peanut butter, just peanuts and salt. So I don't get peanut butter with all that other crap in it. Like the ingredients on the peanut butter I buy literally says peanuts, salt, which means you do have to stir it, but I'm fine with that.
It's better that way. Yeah. That's what I thought I was getting when I just recently got some peanut butter, but it wasn't that when I looked at the ingredients. It had a bunch of ingredients. I don't really have any not good enough that I can think of. I may have something later, but let's move on to our feedback section and open hailing frequencies. All right. Our first, our only voicemail this week is from Jeff X-Force 11.
Hello, Star Trek fans. This is Jeff X-Force 11 leaving my feedback about Picard episode Assimilation. Wow, I am just loving this second season. It is just so good. I deeply felt for the loss of Eleanor and how hard Raffi is taking it being his surrogate mother. And I am just very interested to see how this past storyline is going to play out. I'm also interested in the fact that Agnes seems to know a lot, but I am thinking that somewhere in her system are Borg nanites, and this is going to come back to haunt her how long she was connected to the Queen. But that's just my guess on that. But I am just loving this season. Can't wait to see what's next. All right, those are my thoughts. X-Force is out.
Well, thank you so much, Jeff, X-Force 11, for your feedback. And I wouldn't be surprised if you are correct. So, I think that will be a big part of the story. Although many of you that are listening to us may already know.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Any response to that?
No, not really. Thanks for the voicemail, Jeff. You're the best.
Yes, we love that streak. You're like our Joe DiMaggio. All right. Why don't you read James's feedback?
All right. Next, we got some feedback from James, the Augmented Sailor, who says, "This episode was decent. Definitely lacked the action and excitement of the first two, but they can't all be nonstop go, go, go. I'm hoping that with the time travel back to the 21st century, the show doesn't decide to become too much of an exposition on present society and focus less on its sci-fi aspects. I watched to escape present society. I don't mind some subtle exposition being there. I just hope they don't get carried away with it. Those are my thoughts. Can't wait to hear everyone else's." I agree with you, James. I appreciate subtlety more than beat you over the head with it.
Yeah. All right. Last bit of feedback is Andy in the Midwest. He says, an observation on serialized versus episodic television. I like both, by the way. I think the serialized nature of this show makes it seem darker. My wife, who watched all of TNG, doesn't really watch Picard, but is often in the vicinity when it is on. She commented that she doesn't care for how dark it is. I think there are plenty of TNG episodes that are just as dark, but the difference is that their plots are generally all resolved within one episode, or the occasional two-parter, usually with a happy ending. With serialized storytelling, we have to live with the drama and unsolved issues for 10 weeks, which makes them seem worse. Imagine if yesterday's Enterprise or Tapestry had been season-long arcs, how much darker they would have seemed. Or if the Borg threat had encompassed an entire season. That would have been awful. But it would have been awesome at the same time. It would have been cool. Oh, I guess you agree. But it would have been dark. You also agree. And we would have missed out on many other great episodes. Again, I like both types of storytelling, but each has its pluses and minuses. And I would agree with everything you said there. I think that it would be nice if in season 3, Picard is a more lighter kind of season. Like, not necessarily something without any drama, but a more uplifting, lighter fare as opposed to, I mean, so much of
the doom and gloom.
So much of both Discovery and Picard has been this kind of, like all humanity is about to be destroyed, or the whole galaxy is about to be destroyed, or, the planets we love are about to be destroyed, or warp drive is dead and nobody can, say hello and sing Kumbaya over the fire. So, those are all things that are true here. So I would think that it would be nice not to have to deal with that. So that's my take.
Yeah.
All right, Ruthie, what do you have for other notes? Do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a couple of other things. Like, I didn't really feel like this was strong enough to be a not good enough, because maybe she does, but Rafi took apart that gun super quick. Like, I didn't think they had those kinds of guns anymore in the future, but maybe she had done some like training with antiques or something. I don't know, but I was like, wow, she just took that thing apart like it was no thing. I mean, would you know how to take apart a gun?
No, hell no.
I would. I have a gun. So that's what I'm like. That's my point. I'm like, how did she know how to take apart that gun? People who don't have guns or not familiar with guns, they wouldn't know how to take apart a gun. I could take apart a gun. Do you think you could eject the clip?
I might be able to figure out how to do it after some time, but I'd probably shoot my nose off first.
Yeah, but you probably couldn't do it as quickly as she did.
No, but it doesn't surprise me that she might, have some knowledge of it, because it's not like the gun didn't exist in her day. It just was more of an antique. So, maybe she had to learn that at the academy or something. Who knows?
Maybe, but that seems highly unlikely. I mean, they don't use those types of firearms anymore. They use
No,
phasers.
sure.
So really I would think the only people who would really have guns would be people who are like antique collectors. I
Sure.
mean, my grandpa, for most of his life, he doesn't really now anymore because he's old. He's in his 90s. So he's kind of past that point in his life, but he made guns for the large majority of his life.
He made guns.
So built them,
Really?
made bullets,
Wow.
all this kind of stuff. I used to sit and watch him when I was a little girl. So this is one of the reasons why I'm pretty comfortable around guns. Like, they don't really scare me because I've always been around them. I mean, my grandpa, I don't think he does as much anymore, but he used to have like drawers and racks of guns. And I mean, he had some antiques that he, would know how to function or know how to operate, I should say, not function. He would know how to operate. He would know how they function. But I don't know that I would know how to operate an antique gun. And
Right.
just because I'm familiar with my personal handgun doesn't mean that I'm familiar with every type of gun out there either. I'm like, there are a lot of different types of guns, So
Right.
again, it just doesn't make sense to me that she would just automatically know how to take apart this gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know, but I kind of didn't really think it was strong enough for like a not good enough. I just kind of thought that seemed a little.
It's enough to give you pause.
I thought I really also enjoyed the emotions rooms when Agnes was with the Borg, and then the switching back and forth of the voices between the two of them. When she grabbed his arm and he was like, "Whose arm? Who's in control?" or something, me, or mine, or whatever. Anyway, I thought that was really cool too. It was like pretty nifty. Also, I thought it was funny that I guess having your comm badge is so second nature to them, because why would Rios have it if he didn't even have his clothes? Like, she just told him, "We're washing your weird clothes."
Yeah.
And she walks out of the room and he goes to tap his chest. It's like, bruh, you don't have your clothes. Why would you still have, why would they take your comm badge off of your shirt and put it on your borrowed shirt? I just thought that was funny. And again, he did it at the very end. He goes for the comm badge that's not there. And I'm like, ugh. So that must be like a really, really, really super ingrained thing for them. If he keeps going for his comm badge that's not there.
That's like us doing this. That was me scrolling on my phone. Anything else?
Just how dangerous it probably is that Jurati impressed the Borg Queen.
Yeah.
And she told her that she was impressed by Agnes and that it was really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, she's not mincing words, is she? Anyway. I don't know. I don't know why they decided ultimately that it was a good idea to go for partial assimilation, because that just seemed like a really bad idea to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess another yes would be that whole scene with the partial assimilation, which, we talked about her in this episode, but I guess that how that whole thing was done, and especially how they're, both saying the same thing and sounding the same way. I thought that was good. And yeah. So, do you have anything else?
No, I think that's it.
The only thing that I could think of that didn't already get mentioned was something that I should have mentioned last week. And since we're kind of leaving this alternate timeline, I figure I better mention it now. How those badges are like weapons. They got like this blade edge on them. Because I've always
We
looked
did
at.
talk about that.
Did we? I didn't think we did.
I remembered
Okay.
seeing/reading it somewhere, so I don't know.
Okay. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Anyway. Well, if we
carry
did, I'm talking about it again. Spot the references. Well, obviously the method of time travel is very similar to Star Trek 4. We talked about that last week, but the effects were compatible with Star Trek 4, and they end up in the same year as the events that happened in Past Tense, which was a 2-part episode in season 3 of Deep Space Nine. One of the ones I often go back to. So that was a favorite of mine. I remember it had a big impact on me when I would go back and watch episodes like this, is especially prior to, some of the later ones, which were big, but like of the, say of the first half of the Deep Space Nine run, I think that 2-part Past Tense was one of the highlights, I thought. So, certainly the Far Beyond the Stars, and
that's my favorite.
Yeah, and was it Beyond the Pale Moonlight? Is that what it is? I know it's the Pale Moonlight. Those are big ones, and several of the ones from season premieres and season finales were big. The whole like 10 episode arc of season 7 were big. But anyway, just Past Tense, I always remember that one, how they had sanctuary districts and all that. The Bell riots. It'd be cool if we saw Cisco, a picture of Cisco in the like on a headline or something. What else? I think that's about it. Star Trek 4 obviously mentioned in the time travel. And this won't be the only Star Trek 4 reference that we'll get here, but that's the only one that we have for this episode. Trying to think if there was anything else. I cannot think of anything. All right. Let's move on to our very abbreviated Shipwide announcements. And of course, again, this particular week, we don't have anything for news, because that was on the part of the previous episode that you would hear on the Discovery feed for season 4, episode 13, which mostly talked about the season finale of Discovery on the Ready Room. So, but I believe that there was a preview of next week's, season 4 or season 2, episode 4 on there. But most of the discussion was about the season finale of Discovery, going into the Parrot analytics. But anyway, starting next week, or should I say next episode, we'll start to hear Wes Huntington do his news. And I'll just cover the Parrots from here. And for the Parrots this week, Picard, stayed strong and went down 2 notches to the number 4 position. It was at 32.8 times the demand of an average show in the United States. Last week was at number 2 with 33.5. So not a big drop, but a little drop. And all right, to submit your theories and feedback, go to talkthroughmedia.com/feedback, where you can submit text or audio. Call 216-232-6146 and leave a voicemail. Email us at picardcast@talkthroughmedia.com. You can post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, which is at facebook.com/groups/Star Trek TTM podcasts with an S at the end, or tweet us at PicardCast.
All right. If you would like to support the podcast, you can like our page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. And while you're there, write a review. You can follow us on Twitter at Star Trek TTM or at PicardCast. Share us on Facebook and retweet us on Twitter, especially when we post that the new episode is out. Subscribe to the Talk Through Media YouTube channel, which is where you'll find our newest episodes first. Subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or the podcast client of your choice. And while you're there, give us a rating or review. Go to podchaser.com, where you can rate and review the podcast and even individual episodes. Finally, the best way to help us keep the lights on here at Talk Through Media is to support us via Patreon. And we would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Andrew Davis, Morning Pace. Thank you for messaging me today. Trey Whipke, Mike, Robert Kaiser, Jeff Gentry, X-Force 11, Kevin Lyle, Michael Carrier, Aaron Mays, Brian Shiro, Kim Vogley, Kyle McAdams, James Robbins, Lawrence Todd, and Clint McCullum. Thanks, guys and gals and people.
All of the podcasts from the Talk Through Media Network can be found on the Talk Through Media all-inclusive feed, which includes the Re-Binge DS9 podcast, the Star Trek Discovery podcast, which you may be listening to us on, the Star Trek Lower Decks podcast, Star Trek Prodigy from Re-Binge It, and the Walking Dead Talk Through. And Kyle and LT, at the time of us recording, are now transitioning into the Fear the Walking Dead Talk Through, and I believe they are recording Fear Season 7, Episode 9.
I'm so sorry for them.
Yeah, so at the time...
Kudos, man. I couldn't make myself do it.
At the time that you guys hear this, there'll probably be a few episodes past that. And our next episode of the Star Trek Picard cast will be covering Star Trek Picard Season 2, Episode 4, which is titled Watcher. It is written by Jane Maggs and Juliana James and Travis Fickett, and directed by Lea Thompson again. And description from ParamountPlus.com, although I'm getting this off of Google. With time running out to save the future, Picard takes matters into his own hands and seeks out an old friend for help. Rios ends up on the wrong side of the law. Jurati makes a deal with the Borg Queen. Uh-oh. That sounds like...
If ever there should be one, it
Yes.
should be after a statement like that.
So until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Ruthie.
Peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.